Hello, and welcome to the virtual ebook, Psychology, Behaviors, Feelings, and Thoughts. In segment 1, we will talk about the history and origins of psychology. Psychology is defined as the scientific study of behavior and mental processes. Psychology is the science of behaviors, feelings, and thoughts in human beings. So when we talk about child psychology, we may say, it's the science of behaviors, feelings, and thoughts in children from birth to adolescence. Or when we speak of social psychology, we mean the science of behaviors, feelings, and thoughts in individuals or groups in social situations. Now, the roots of psychology were founded in philosophy. Beginning with Aristotle in 384 BC, he was the first to study psychological topics. He combined the logic of philosophy and empirical observation and spent a lot of time observing people. Descartes, a philosopher, also influenced psychology with his interactive dualism theory. He proposed that the mind and the body were separate entities that interact to produce sensations, emotions, and other conscious experiences during human life. Even today, psychologists continue to explore this relationship between mind and body. Also, philosophers have laid the groundwork for a central issue in psychology, the nature versus nurture debate. For centuries, philosophers debated whether the inborn nature of the individual was more important than the environmental influences or nurture of the individual. Even today, psychologists continue to acknowledge the importance of both nature and nurture in human development. Moving forward to the 19th century, we have the founder of psychology, Wilhelm Wundt. In 1874, he wrote his landmark text, Principles of Physiological Psychology. In 1879, Wilhelm Wundt founded the first psychology lab at the University of Leipzig in Germany. In his quote below, in the Principles of Physiological Psychology, in the first sentence you will see something that is very similar to Descartes' interactive dualism. Now, physiology and psychology, as we said just now, are auxiliary disciplines, and neither can advance without assistance from the other. The first major school of thought in psychology was Structuralism. Edward Titchener, a student of Wundt, worked alongside Wundt to develop Structuralism. Structuralism used the method of introspection, which was an internal inspection of subjects via questioning, to explore the conscious experiences of individuals. Experiments including eating of an apple and reaction time to ringing of a bell. Structuralism focused mostly on the basic components of conscious experiences, which included basic sensory and perceptual processes. The second major school of thought in psychology was Functionalism. William James had a major impact on Functionalism, which can also be described as function of behavior. William James himself started psychology at Harvard University in the 1870s. He actually opposed Wilhelm Wundt, who was the founder of psychology, in his approach to structuralism and introspection. James's ideas shaped the school of functionalism because he was influenced more heavily by Darwin to focus on how behaviors help individuals adapt to the environment. And like Aristotle's philosophy, functionalism focused on empirical observation and outward inspection of people. The third school of thought in psychology was Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis was actually a personality theory and a form of psychotherapy. It emphasized the role of unconscious factors on personality and behavior. Freud himself was born in 1856 and lived until the beginning of World War II. He was an Austrian physician and not a psychologist. He challenged structuralism and functionalism, which had more of an emphasis on conscious processes. Freud believed that behavior and personality were actually influenced primarily by unconscious conflicts, which had to do with sex and aggression. Freud's psychoanalysis had a powerful influence on later theories of psychology. The fourth school of thought in psychology was behaviorism. Some of the champions included Pavlov, Watson, and Skinner. Behaviorism, a school of psychology, was a theoretical viewpoint that emphasized the study of observable behaviors, especially as they pertain to the process of learning. It all started with the work of Ivan Pavlov, a Russian physiologist. He demonstrated that dogs could learn to associate a neutral stimulus such as the sound of a bell with an automatic behavior such as reflexively salivating to food. John Watson promoted behaviorism in the U.S. His goal was to discover the fundamental principles of learning, how behaviors acquired and modified in response to environmental influences and experiences. Behaviorism was in fact championed by B.F. Skinner. Skinner believed that psychology should restrict itself to studying outwardly observable behaviors that could be measured and verified in compelling experimental demonstrations. He was very fond of working with rats and pigeons as his preferred subjects. After behaviorism came humanistic psychology. Humanistic psychology emphasizes each person's unique potential for psychological growth and self-direction. It started in the 1950s, and it was significantly different from psychoanalysis and behaviorism. It's founded by Carl Rogers, and he emphasized the person's conscious experiences as opposed to Freud's unconscious conflicts of the mind. Rogers went on to say that self-determination and psychological growth were key areas along with free will and the importance of choice in human behavior. Accompanying Rogers in the humanistic movement was Abraham Maslow. His theory of motivation emphasized the importance of psychological growth in his hierarchy of needs. Last but not least, the current emphasis in psychology is on positive psychology and neuroscience. Positive psychology is led by Martin Seligman. The emphasis in positive psychology is for the individual to utilize strengths and virtues to live a happy and content life. Neuroscience has brought us to an entirely new level. We know more about the brain now in the last 10 years than we have in the entire history of humanity. New information about brain health, brain balance, and nutrition for the brain has helped many clients and many people in the psychological field. Thanks so much to Discovering Psychology Text by the Hockenberrys.